Well, Barry, it is our tradition that somewhere along the way, usually on Tuesday, I give you a call, give your words of wisdom, deep understanding,
Both of them.
and basically ask you a question. Barry, what are we talking about tomorrow? Well, this time you did what I wasn't expecting. Is I was on speakerphone.
Yes, you were.
Yeah, and so we've turned the reins over regarding our subject matter now to your wife,
Yes.
Laura Phillips. And so at her direction,
Yes.
being, obedient, being very easy to get along with, as both of us are, we decided that we would take her advice and in this time discuss what she calls the hope of the season. So, Barry, is this a time that people are really, is this really a season of hope?
It's a season of debt.
Yeah, which is no hope.
Uh, she was relating the other day, an individual was discussing with her how that an entire section of their living room was taken up by gifts that didn't have had so many of those they didn't have room to move in the room. And I'm thinking, really?
Huh.
Well, I think this is our 23rd year in which we have chosen not to go along with the mainstream philosophy of life at this point of the year, and we're financially better off for it. Relationally, we've been challenged on occasion, but yeah, there are a lot of folks that we don't hear about. You see the heartwarming Hallmark style movies and programming and the songs that the same circle of songs that you hear everywhere you go, um, and people scurrying around and seeing how much money they got left or how much more room's on their credit cards. There's a lot of frustration, and the closer we
Yep.
get to the middle of next week, the more intense it's going to be. Um, yeah, it can be. We don't hear about the folks that are depressed, their family's gone, or not associating with them, or they don't have any money, or whatever the reasons are. And there are a lot of folks that just don't enjoy this season very much, although they are technically supposed to.
Yeah, and we could spend the whole program or more going over the aspects of this day. I kind of consider it like this. I was thinking about this just a few minutes ago, that the December 25th, to a lot of people who are, I'm around that are atheists or agnostics or, just celebrating something for the culture. This is kind of like meeting your wife at a restaurant one day out of a year for your anniversary and having a meal together, giving her a gift, and then going back to your own apartment and not talking to her for another year. So it's been my decision, and this hasn't come up yet, that when somebody asks me, and it probably will happen today or tomorrow, that when somebody asks me, well, you don't, why don't you celebrate Christmas? I'm going to look at them and say, why do you? Okay. I'm going to turn the tables on this because, why do you? And I think it's kind of like for most people, God is kind of a hope thing. And so this is, even if they don't have any stated belief in him, it's kind of like, well, maybe if he's there and I kind of hope, that I'm wrong, but I'm not going to tell anybody that maybe, I kind of appease him in doing this, and, like he'll look at me and go, oh yeah, he's still there. We'll talk later. But this comes down to the word hope,
Mhm.
which is defined in English as a I hope that something happens. I'm hoping that next year the taxes come down. I hope that the price of gas comes down and the price of eggs and things like that. But really, I don't have any way to affect that in my own being. So hope becomes something that is just out there, and I really can't do anything about it. So I'll just wait and see. Is that kind of what you see as in that word?
I think we need to define what hope is.
Okay.
If
Yeah, that's
hope
what I'm
is
trying to do.
what you're just describing is more in tune with wishing.
Same thing, same word. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
wish things.
Yeah.
Another, I think, more intense version of hope is expectancy,
Yeah.
reasonable expectations. I was thinking about this last night. Um, in regard to expectations, so I began to think about that word. One of the greatest hindrances to a harmonious marriage is unrealized expectations. Um, a newly married couple will go into a marriage. The bride is thinking that she is going to continue now living as the princess with the knight in shining armor version of life. And the bridegroom is thinking that life is now an ongoing honeymoon nonstop. But you put two people raised from two different families with two different mindsets, different expectations under the same roof, along with whatever life brings, and it brings all kinds of stuff, good and bad. Just the day-to-day routine suddenly began to drain out this fairy tale mindset of what marriage is, and you're left with a lifelong expected relationship, ups, downs, ins, and outs, and all of the stuff of life together with this person. Marriage is not the expectation of romance all the time. Marriage is more about experiencing life with someone that you're absolutely committed to for their better life, for their encouragement, and for their help when they need you.
Mhm.
So a young couple not having expectations realized can end up disillusioned and disappointed and feeling like, well, I didn't sign up for this. And thus, a lot of new marriages don't make it very long. Um, the same thing goes into our belief. There were how many people got born again with the expectation he's coming back, and it's probably this year. I don't have to be involved in this Christian born again lifestyle, but maybe for another year, and we're out of here. And suddenly you realize decades later, my expectations were not realized, and I've had to have a hope based on something different.
Mhm.
So Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans and
Mhm.
thoughts I have for you," says Yah, "plans for peace and well-being and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope." And that's the Loud Bible, the Amplified Bible there. The version I normally read says to give you a future and an expectancy. One writer clarified hope in the final outcome.
Mhm.
Hope here is not just a wish. Yah is not saying, I know the wishes that I have for you. He says there's some expectations, some reasonable promised expectations. So I would ask the question, it not just this time of year, but in the middle of your life, do you have things that you are reasonably expecting Yah to do, based on belief, based on the integrity of his word? Or are you still living in the I wish he would do something for me hope version?
Mhm. I looked away because I wanted to check. I've quoted that verse I don't know how many times, and I've never checked the word there. So Jeremiah 29:11, the word is to give you a future and a tikva. The
Oh,
word the word there is tikva, that is translated as hope. Now, Brad Scott of blessed memory taught me one of the greatest principles of scripture study, I believe, and that is to always look to where that word is used first,
mm-hmm.
because the word will give you a context that you can then move through scripture with. So with that, I'd like to read where the word is used the first time.
Okay.
And this is in the story of Rahab, the, I believe, innkeeper. The translation can be the word, depending on the, as you know, depending on the vowel points, can be prostitute or innkeeper. I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, I just, I would rather her tell me in eternity you were wrong than, her come up and slap me. So, because I think she was a pretty, pretty together person there. So, being an innkeeper, I mean, she probably had to do some battles on the side. So, let me get off of that. It says in chapter 2, verse 18, let's go back to about 17. The men said to her, we will not be guilty of violating the oath you made us swear, provided that when we enter the land, you tie this piece of scarlet tikva in the window. So the words there can be translated this: hope that is in a thread of scarlet cord. So our hope is in something that is concrete. We have a hope. We have not a hope as in English we have, as you just said. By the way, you probably saw my notes on my screen somehow through the reflection of my glasses, I guess. But hope is like to want something to happen or to be true. Okay. So you and Laura are sitting there on the couch, and you're like all of a sudden having this hankering. You know what hankering is.
Mm-hmm.
So do I. Okay, we're from the South. So you get this hankering for a dreamsicle. Okay, fudgesicle.
Brown mule, but go ahead.
Okay, whatever. All right, something. You're like, I sure hope the ice cream truck comes by, and you sit there in your hope. But in the end, the probability, because I know where you live, the probability of the ice cream truck coming by your house, slim, like non-existent. So you're probably not going to get your hope. It's not going to become a reality. The other word for hope is the word of expectation, which is about doing something. We have to be actively involved. It's the word that is translated from Hebrew as desire. It's the same basic word, but it is, you're sitting there on the couch and you get that hankering, and it's like, get in the car, honey. We're going to the store, because I'm going to put I'm putting desire and hope together, and it's going to meet in action, which is going to be my ice cream. So are we looking toward the kingdom with the couch sitting attitude, or are we heading to the car with the keys?
There you go. So if I am expecting, I have to ask the question then, expecting what? Expecting someone else to do for me what I'm unwilling to do for myself? Or expecting that because of my faith and belief and actions resulting from the result is going to be what we need. So if we believe that Yah can heal, and I do, at some point you do more than just pray in your office for someone to be healed. You find yourself in the company of the person who needs to be healed, and hands are laid on them, and a prayer belief is prayed. And sometimes, Mike, that also encourages us to remind them, now I'm praying for your healing, but I'm requesting, urging you to stop the behavior
Exactly.
that is promoting your sickness.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm praying for your diabetes to be healed, but you've got to stop ingesting those things and doing those things that promote your malady here.
Yeah, you're going to have to lay off the Hanukkah donuts.
So yeah, well, there is just certain dietary requirements. Um, so we pray for people's marriages to be healed. Well, then you need to start treating your spouse differently. We encourage those behaviors. I have hope that when I pray, I have an expectancy that Yah is going to hear and answer my prayer. But this is not just sitting here and thinking about it and wishing it to be true. This past Shabbat, you were recently with us. The men normally gather to pray, and the women will gather to pray. And we do that because, I want to hear men praying together. And the women, sometimes they have subject matters that is more appropriate for ladies to discuss and pray about. So the men are in a separate room, we're praying, and the women are in the larger room where we gather, they're praying, and then we kind of listen to see if they're finished or not. Well, this past Shabbat, they prayed a while. After we had finished praying, they continued to pray for a while. And when we stepped out of the room, I was met and told, we need to pray for the sick now. Because there were several that had expressed needing to be prayed for healing. So we had an old-fashioned call the elders of the congregation, anoint the sick with oil and lay hands on them and pray for them. And it took a while. And people were texting about 40 minutes after we normally start our live stream saying, I don't see you. Well, it was about 40, 45 minutes of praying for the sick. And we did what the scripture said with the expectation of these folks are going to be healed. And several instantly said, it's gone. So we're thankful that Yah still hears and answers prayer. Well, I mean, what if I had said, well, we'll get around to that. We'd have missed our opportunity. There was an expectation level. And sometimes as leaders, we need to understand when expectations are at a certain place, it's time to move then. How many times has a pulpiteer thought, well, yes, faith in the house has just gone through the roof, but I want to finish my sermon first because I worked really hard on this outline.
Yeah.
Yeshua was interrupted, I'm sure, on many an occasion in the middle of his teaching by someone that was presenting a need, and he just stopped and reached over and took care of what was going on. Wait a minute. Don't push those mothers and children away. Bring them here now.
Mm-hmm.
So
putting action.
Absolutely. If you have hope is not idle. Hope is active.
Mm-hmm. So let me bring this into, of course, a subject that I don't go too far without talking about, and that's Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have a song called Hatikvah,
yes,
the hope.
Mm-hmm.
You've been in meetings as I have where we've done the Hatikvah. What most people don't understand or don't know about is that this was a poem. It was written in 1870 by a man named Naphtali Hertz Imber. And it wasn't until 1933, the Zionist Congress, that this poem became what is now very famous. And so if you think back to history of 1870, we're still 70, 80 years from 1948. We are many years from the first Zionist Congress. Theodore Herzl, Ben Gurion, all of these different people, the players that will be involved in the prophecy coming forth of can a nation be born in a day. So Naphtali Hertz Imber writes this poem with the word tikva. He does not use the word yakel, which is desire, but it's just at that point it's a hope, it's a wish, if you would. It's a wish that's based upon a truth, yes, but is there anything he can really do in that day outside of write the poem?
Mm-hmm.
But see, his hope became his tikva, his desire became, or his hope became someone else's desire that drove them to action. So let me read the words. As long as deep in the heart the soul of a Jew yearns, and forward to the east, to Zion, and eye looks, our hope will not be lost. The hope of 2,000 years to be a free nation in our land, the land of Zion and Jerusalem. And we could put in there the hope of a former Gentile yearns. The hope of one who may associate as a foreigner, may associate as a one from the northern kingdom of Ephraim. But we live in a day, Barry, today that we can turn the hope of someone else into a desire that is based upon our actions in order to bring forth that which was just, could we say, a twinkle in the Father's eye? You know, the twinkle in the eye of Naphtali Imber now became the conception in 1917, came the manifestation of the child in 1948. And we've seen through the years of this child, even to 1967, 19 years after the birth of Israel, and 19 in Hebrew thought is the time of responsibility. So what happened to in the birthing of a child in 1948 became the responsibility of a people in 1967 when Jerusalem was brought back as one.
Mm-hmm. So how many people who hear the beginning of that song or hear an announcement that we're going to play the Israeli national anthem, they stand, they sing the words, and it has become common to them. It's kind of like what we stand for the national anthem here in the U.S., and I would dare say that there are close to a majority have no idea what era of time in our history that this was written. For instance, Scott Key, during the War of 1812. War of 1812, what's that all about? But it was about, the song is about the standing of the United States flag, even after a horrific assault, the flag was still there. It's supposed to invoke nationalistic pride, but the Israeli anthem is different in that it's about a dream, a
Mhm.
vision, um, something that had no expectation of full realization outside of the hearts of the Jewish people. The rest of the world didn't want an Israeli state, couldn't care less. Likewise, Mike, what we talk about the coming of the kingdom, the vast majority of those who have belief in Messiah, they're looking for a great escape. They're not looking for the kingdom. Oh, that'll come, that's at least 7 years away from now.
Yeah, the sweet by and by.
So
So
when we talk about the hope of the kingdom, the expectation of the kingdom, and we understand the time frames, the times and the seasons and the Moedim and how Yah will choose to operate, is this a hope that is just out there on a far horizon somewhere and, well, we'll get there eventually? Or do we understand and know it could be a lot closer than what we're anticipating? Well, according to my timeline, we're at this point. Chances are those who have the greatest understanding of the timeline are still going to be wrong.
yeah, yeah, I would say so. I would say so. But here's the going back to Israel and the flags and all those things. My hope regarding the kingdom, my hope regarding the establishment of Israel is based upon a scarlet cord,
Mm-hmm.
which means that my hope is based upon a Messiah, the truth of his actions and Rahab in putting the scarlet cord was prophetically looking to the truth of the Messiah.
Yes.
I did a teaching this past Shabbat, I won't go into it all, on the Israel flag. Never done that before. The
Okay.
significance of each part of, including the Mogan David, each part of the Israel flag, which is blue and white. And so I was asked at the end, well, what about the American flag, red, white, and blue? And the more I've thought about it, the American flag doesn't really have a prophetic right to the red. Now I know that it's talking about the blood that was shed for the foundation of this country. I got that, but I'm talking about a prophetic instance, a prophetic statement here that white speaks of purity, blue speaks of the Son of Man that is prophesied in Daniel chapter 8, and red speaks of the blood that was shed by that one, so that we may be holy in his sight.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, America, the United States specifically, does not have a prophetic promise. The land of Israel does. So, in essence, the Israeli flag has more of a right to red, white, and blue than America does.
I won't say I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to offer a different vantage point
Okay.
in that I'm reading more frequently. It seems to be showing up more frequently in my reading that, yes, Yah came to establish the lineage of Abraham through which we would have the Messiah, and the establishment of Israel as not only a people but a nation. But the prophets are also very clear that it has always been Yah's intention to also redeem the Goyim, the Gentiles,
True.
and bring them into this covenant body. Now, they're not coming in to remain Gentiles. They're going to come in to be grafted in as Israel. And there is that learning curve that we are all continuing to experience. We can't say, well, yeah, we've encountered the curve and gotten over it. No, we're still in the middle of the curve. So I'm wondering if it's possible the color symbolisms of our flag, while they have nationalistic symbols, that the red could reference the blood of Messiah that was also shed for those in this nation, of which there is a significant portion, not necessarily the majority anymore, but a significant portion who are believers in and followers of the Messiah. So the redeemed do live in this land, and the redeemed that live in this land also are making attempts to make Messiah known throughout the earth.
Mm-hmm. I actually did bring forth that what you're saying there. I did bring. Well,
I didn't see your notes, but I'm on the same length with you. Then it's amazing how much you think like me, Mike.
Yeah, I know. So America has been a haven, not specifically for Judah, as though it's been seen as Judah. America has been a haven for Ephraim.
Absolutely.
Which is the people who have trusted in the blood. But at the same time, that trust will then point us to the kingdom, which will be the center of that on the Harabite, in my estimation. Well, so yeah, I see where you're at there.
The hope that we have is, and I have hopes and desires for this nation, because I'm here, but especially that my children and grandchildren are here. I don't want to see this nation fall apart. I don't want to see it become filled with anarchy and violence. There are certain persuasions and political agendas. I don't want to see them come to pass. And so we do what we can to withstand that as long as we can, knowing that there are world systems that are going to come, not only for our nation, but the nations of the earth, that are going to bring us under a demonic sway for a season. It's prophesied. I mean, we know it's going to happen, but it's about the formation of the earth's peoples to a place where they can receive the kingdom. I don't enjoy the prophetic processes that are in front of us, but I also know the one that will keep his people in the middle of them.
Yeah.
So, Mike, we do the best we can for this nation, but our hope, our expectations are not just on a refurbished, revitalized American people, but ultimately on the kingdom that will not be centered in America. It will be in the land of Israel. Israel will be the one lone superpower in the earth in that day, and not for a fleeting moment. And for those who cannot imagine that to be a reality, just buckle up and hold on, because it's going to happen.
And it will be in that day the first time in 6,000 years that there has been a kingdom of pure righteous rule.
Imagine that.
So this week, my hope is not that I'll get the president I want. I don't care. I'm not getting the presidents anyway, so it doesn't really make any difference. My hope is, that next week, when we get on this program, we do a program next week, and I'm planning to. But by the time that we get on this program at 9:00, and it is edited and you put it up online, the vast majority of the American public will be depressed. I will still have an expectant confidence in which I am moving forward toward in action.
Yeah. True. My mind is just going through the scenarios, the emotional. It's over. That was it. That's It's kind of like Thanksgiving. 5 minutes after the food's eaten, it's like.
So this week you can ask people, why do you celebrate that day? And next week you can say, why did you? And maybe next week you'll get the more honest answer and one that you're able to work with and giving them something more than just, I hope the ice cream truck comes by today.
Yeah.
All right. Got to run, Barry. I got Grandpa Sir duties.
All right. Shalom, folks. Thank you for watching, for sharing, and we'll see you hopefully next week.
You got it. See ya.